We are Movie Menu Reviews. Back for our quinceanera season.
Yes.
I'm a girl.
We should be in the park somewhere.
Becoming a lady.
We are outdoors, so on today's menu, we'll be reviewing Venom and A Star is Born. All right, welcome, ladies and gents. I'm Dan the Man Munoz, host of Movie Menu Reviews, your weekly movie news and reviews podcast, live on Facebook. We are back. I am joined with special guest Christopher T. Wood.
Hey! Thank you very much. Always good to be back, particularly on the quinceanera.
Yeah. One of us should have worn a dress.
Yes.
Missed opportunity.
Or at least been in white, isn't it?
Yeah.
It should be in white.
I mean, I'm just going to say that you
or
are in fact
wearing-
fine.
Yes.
Or wearing a tiara. But
I'll bring the tiara next week.
Yeah.
Also here is my co-host Mike Stan.
Hey, Mike.
Also here, not wearing a tiara, is Z. Senior panelist co-host.
I will bring it next week in a white dress.
So, Christopher T. Wood, thank you for being on the show. We are excited to review Venom and A Star is Born with you. So let's go ahead and get started with the review for Venom. Venom is directed by Ruben Fleischer, written by Jeff Pinkner and Scott Rosenberg, and it stars Tom Hardy, Michelle Williams, and Riz Ahmed. Here's the plot.
Good actor.
When Eddie Brock acquires the powers of the symbiote, he will have to release his alter ego Venom to save his life. All right, guys. So we have all seen this movie, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Believe so.
So depending on your spoiler-free review, we shall decide if this movie is worth a dine-in and watch it in theaters, takeout, way to watch it at home, or leftovers. Let Venom eat your head instead of watching this film.
Blast yourself in space. You can also do that if you want to.
Yeah. Let it eat your pancreas?
Yes. Make you into a human turd.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
That's right. Rolling in the wind.
Rolling in the
wind.
That was...
It's quite poetic.
Yeah.
All right, so as our guest, Chris, go ahead and give your rating.
I think I have to give it a takeout.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can miss this in the theaters. I don't think it is throw it in the trash by any means, but my overwhelming feeling is that you didn't have to see it.
Sorry for making you having to see it.
But you know what? I'm glad you're on the show because you generally are pretty good about like noticing the things that went wrong in this film. So if it's my turn, I'm going to say it's also takeout for me. I was disappointed in the way that I wasn't with Deadpool, and I was expecting to see a Deadpool caliber film, and it just wasn't that. And that's, I think, the saddest part for me is that like I really love Venom as a character, and the fact that they weren't really able to develop it, or even at that, like there's a lot of things that were just kind of givens that weren't really earned, and that's why I just was not really.
I'm surprised that you were expecting a Deadpool like level film, and
we can talk about it more because we'll talk more in the review. Yeah.
Well, I agree. I think it's also a takeout. It's not
3 for 3.
It's not as bad as everyone's saying, but it's definitely not good either. It's like it's an okay watch that you can like watch on Netflix at home.
That's exactly what my thought was. Like, you can easily watch this on Netflix or on Hulu or wherever it also would appear.
Yep.
Mike?
I agree with you guys. Also, takeout. That's 4 out of 4.
Yeah, unanimously takeout.
Now, I will say this. If the boss is harassing you and the bills are due and your special someone found another special someone and it's Friday and you need to take your brain out of your head and go see things blow up, then this movie will give you that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You're not going to go there and say, this is a Friday night film of big explosions and strong attempts by all. I got to say that everyone down to the director tried very hard to make a great film.
I completely agree with that, and it's not by any means because I was comparing this to Suicide Squad. It's by no means Suicide Squad.
No.
But
the funny thing is,
but there is some feelings similar to Suicide Squad.
Well, no, to me, it's not anywhere as bad as this film either. But the way it was set up is very similar. they're just, this movie was a little more successful with the Fantastic Four, where the lead up is very slow, and then as soon as he becomes Venom, it's very fast and it just happens. Which is what happens with Fantastic Four. Yeah. But they failed it miserably, where this one was a little successful.
Well, which is interesting because the way you just described it was a setup for a horror movie. And I think that this film was, I think, in first attempt going to be a horror film. But then they realized that, like, oh, we can actually go more action on this. And it just feels like there's an attempt to go horror, the slow build up to the extreme where all of a sudden you see Venom as this demonic creature. But it just... because the PG-13 limitations there, it just couldn't go that far.
Now, we do have someone watching and commented, JJ Soda,
hey, how's it going?
He also gave it a takeout, and he knew this movie wasn't going to be good.
Really? I was hoping for something better. Because it's Tom Hardy, it's
a
Riz Ahmed.
Well, it's a takeout and not leftover, so, I mean, it was okay for you.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
The problem that I saw, well, there's a couple of direct problems, but I would say my first, it didn't take itself seriously enough. And by that I mean, if you reach into your pocket and all of a sudden you see there's a spider there, or God forbid 4, you jump out of your skin. And they had a very interesting concept, which is that he has been now infected with this thing, and Tom Hardy's more than capable as an actor to give you that sense of, oh my God, there's something crawling around inside me. And they sort of skipped past that. Now, maybe that would drive you insane in reality, so they couldn't touch the reality of it. But if you look at, and this is a Chris Wood pet peeve, the henchman. The henchman facing Venom. They go into a room, Venom decimates them, and they're like, yeah, we're going to get this guy. Can you pretend for a moment that this man's arm turned black and just tossed your men around like a sack of potatoes? But they just drop it like, you know what, we face Venoms all the time. No, you don't. You've never seen one before. And that's really where the film got it. The film accepted the fact that this has occurred to this individual, and let's move on. And that forces the audience to go, oh, it must not be a pretty big deal to have Venom creeping around inside.
Right, which would make sense if this played into the Spider-Verse, but it doesn't. So the fact that it's independent of any other superhero films, right? If this movie was taking place in the MCU, for example, right? People would be like, oh, it's another monster. We know how to deal with it. But because it's playing outside of the MCU or outside of the bigger scope of field of villains, they shouldn't have those reactions. And it just feels flat. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. It just feels flat.
Well, to me, I definitely didn't take itself seriously, but that's with Tom Hardy's performance. Because the way that he interpreted Eddie Brock, it's not someone like, it's not Christian Bale Batman. It's not Chris Evans as Captain America. His portrayal of Eddie Brock was almost comedic in that sense.
Well, that I wouldn't have a problem with. I thought listen, I'm an actor. Tom Hardy is much better than I will ever be.
But I'm saying that I saw going in, I expected that type of tone. That, what I meant.
Well,
the slapstick.
Yeah.
My question with it, I was okay with the slapstick because you have a person that may be going bananas because he hears voices in his head. But the strange thing, and I guess this is a little Batman-esque, his ability to speak English went out the window. He starts off as Eddie Brock, one of the most intelligent interviewers in all of America. And then once he's infected with Venom, not because he's infected with Venom, but just because that's evidently what happened, he shifts to, I didn't go to school a lot, or there's this, I can't quite get words out, I don't know how to speak. Now, if that's the effect that Venom's having on him, fine. But then you see at the end of the movie, no, he's back to articulate, confident. Well, that just didn't make sense. Choose a character. And if you're a poor guy and you can't quite string words together and this freaky thing is happening to you, great. If you're an intellectual guy and this freaky thing is happening to you, great. But let it just be that.
Yeah, but also to speak about the whole Eddie Brock thing, like for me, I know Eddie Brock because I love comics, and so I know what Eddie Brock looks like. He's an asshole. He's a psychopath. He's not as Carnage psychopath, but he is definitely much more self-interested, probably more of a sociopath. And the way that we saw Eddie Brock in this story was completely different. It was much more of this charismatic, person of the people, which I was like, oh, okay, we're going in a different direction. But what Venom turns him into, and there's like a throwaway line in the movie where Venom goes like, I'm starting to get used to you. I think I like you as a host. And for me, there was a skip there because I was like, I know why Eddie Brock is chosen as Venom in the comics. I know why he chooses Flash afterwards. But like, I don't understand why Venom is choosing him. So I know the movie was trying to showcase there's a fourth character in this film that's really important, and that's Venom. But it doesn't actually tell you what Venom is thinking or what is happening in its symbiotic mind. And I thought that was a huge problem where I was like, I don't know why you chose Eddie. There doesn't seem to be any physicality. Now, we know that Tom Hardy's great at physical stuff, but there was nothing to showcase you before that Eddie Brock was like this badass,
the perfect host or something.
Yeah, because like, for me in the comics, Flash himself is a soldier. He's an ex-vet who has no legs, and he's like trying his best. And then Venom takes him, and then they become like a symbiosis because they're both warriors and they both fight for what's right. And this film felt like that, but it didn't get the point across, and I think that was its biggest failure.
And I think there was a bad setup for that as well, where they do this huge lead up where they're like, it needs to find the perfect host, and then once it finds Eddie Brock, it's like the perfect host has been found, and then later on in the film, like that goes out the window, and it's like, oh, it could take anybody.
It could take anybody.
I won't say who else it takes, but it gets a few other hosts after that, like nonchalantly, just to make the story move forward.
I have to say, I'm not familiar. I'm vaguely familiar with the comic, but I didn't dig deep into it. I assumed that what made him the perfect host was sort of like chemical luck. He just had the right chemistry for. And what you guys are talking about is that there's a personality thing, and this brings me back to my original point. The film, strangely enough, did not take itself seriously.
I agree. Yeah.
It has a good story to tell, and it has Tom Hardy who could deliver on that. What is my character weakness that would allow such a creature to take me over? And then what's the battle between myself and the creature?
Yes.
And that was just sort of left on the table because you got a lot of cartoonish CGI that you have to work through.
That's another thing that I want to talk about. So my theater, so this is my personal experience. My theater, the screen stopped working. As soon as the movie was about to get started, the screen stopped working. The person came in and apologized. And so when they reset the projector, I don't know whether or not it was my theater, so I'm going to ask you guys, was the movie too dark for you? I couldn't see a whole lot of what was happening in this movie.
No, mine wasn't.
So Man's just been in the theater. Okay. Yeah, but for me, you're right.
Did you watch it in 3D?
No, but it appeared. Was it in 3D?
Was it in 3D?
Oh, I didn't know.
Did you see it in 3D, Dan?
No.
Okay.
I didn't either.
I never fork up that kind of money. Right? But I have to say, I'll give them this. A lot of times when you see a movie that's made for 3D, when you see it in regular, you can see what you're missing, and I enjoy. So in that sense, again, this is, except for the beginning, it's a little slow beginning.
Yeah.
This is a nice rock'em sock'em movie, and you've got some good characters. I will say they left Riz Ahmed on the table.
Oh, they did not use him.
That's a great young actor, great character. See him in
The Night Of.
The Night Of, and you will watch that, and a young girl will get into a cab, and you will jump up and down and say,
"Don't do it." Yeah.
And then the rest of it's great. But I really, he was a one note. Why people stood around him while he was doing what he was doing didn't make sense.
There's a lot of this movie that doesn't make sense.
And I admire that they gave that actress a great role, but I was just sort of like, why isn't... Okay. Now, maybe, again, Friday night movie... Yeah. Explosions, don't worry about it. So you could say that.
Well, yeah, and I think for me, like, its ultimate failing, again, great actors, pretty good director. I'm trying to remember what he directed, but he's done some really good work. Overall, this movie should have worked, but it just feels like this movie was easily a 3-hour movie that they cut.
It also seemed like it wanted to be a rated R movie.
That's what I mean.
But
I was actually pretty I was, I don't think this is, I wouldn't say it's made for a 14-year-old. It was pretty
actually
wild.
there was more like violent and blood than I thought a PG-13 was allowed to have.
It's still like stuff happens, but a lot of it happens off screen. Like you don't really see. It's like a few heads were eaten, but we'll just talk about it.
Right.
We'll just we'll discuss it, imply it strongly. So it was interesting. My fiance who was with me, just to let her have it, she was squirming. She couldn't stand it so much. I mean, she was like, this is one of the all-time failures.
Really?
In her opinion. She just said, I'm out. I've checked out immediately. I don't care how this works out. She's a big fan of Riz Ahmed and Tom Hardy, and she said this is just not there. Now, I will say, I will give one strong compliment to this film. The central character, Tom Hardy's character, does foolish things in pursuit of his job and his dedication to his job,
right.
and suffers because of it. And I thought that was actually nice, because I think Hollywood usually takes that male character and just sort of says to the world, he's misunderstood and super dedicated. And in this one, it's like, you're not misunderstood. You're going to pay.
Yeah.
And I thought that was nice. I thought I was kind of really in. I was like, I want to see what happens to this guy, because he doesn't escape the consequences of his actions.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he gets infected, and he's kind of okay with it,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, wait.
But see, that's the thing, is that I feel like this movie could have easily been a 3-hour movie, because it just had so much more that it could have worked through. And for me, like, probably its biggest failings are like that third act that we can't really talk about. But there's just so much going on there, and so many portions of it where I'm like, well, you didn't have to do that. That was so I can't spoil it. But there's like a certain death that happens in the movie where I'm just kind of like, oh, you're just gonna sweep that under the rug? That's it? You're just gonna leave that on the table? Like, that's it? Like, okay, that's strange. And then for the whole ending portion of the movie where Riz, and I don't know if it's a spoiler, but it's in the trailer. I don't think it's in the trailer.
No, it's not.
It's not in the trailer. Okay, so there's a moment where Riz's character does something that I felt like, okay, nobody really, and it was funny because I was watching the movie and I started paying attention to the back characters.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, he knows. And so I was paying more attention to that, and it just was kind of like this moment of like, I'm now paying attention to what's going on in the background and less what's going on in the story, because this movie has just lost me.
And one large complaint, it's just, if I ever get greenlit for a big film, I will make sure I do not do this. When you hire mercenaries to work for you, and there are 20 of them, they're doing it for the money. Mm-hmm. So if 16 of them are wiped out in front of the 4 remaining survivors' eyes, those guys probably aren't going to be so dedicated to
right.
it. And you have 2 scenes, I don't think we're ruining anything. You have 2 scenes where police face Venom. And the police, as they start to get picked off, are highly concerned about their own welfare.
Yep.
The guys who are doing it just for the money are like, all my friends are wiped out, but I'm still in it.
See, and this is what I love about Deadpool. Deadpool 1 did it really well, where everyone was just freaked out by the fact that this guy is just taking them all out, and they're like looking at each other going like, should we even try? And then Deadpool pops out of the corner and shoots them all in the head, and you're like, oh, okay, they're all freaked out. I believe these thugs are real. And so you understand their fear as like this guy is just taking them all out.
And I think when you do that in your film, you have your audience relax. It's like, oh, you know what? Lots of people are dying, but it's not a big deal. Yeah. And therefore you sit back and you're like, I'm going to wait for something. Now you have to be, your next thing has to be so cataclysmic, because we don't worry when 16 people just die, as opposed to if they just develop the reality of, what is happening to this can't happen every day. So let's just take that in for a moment.
Well, so JJ has a couple comments. He said that he'd watched this over Suicide Squad.
Oh, yeah.
And also he said he's been reading online that this movie feels like it belongs in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
You guys feel like that?
I dig that.
Yep. JJ, you're a genius.
That's good. Yeah. This would easily
like
fit.
One of the early comic book
JJ's
movies.
probably like 6 years old.
It did. At some point, it did do this type of edit that I saw in the first Incredible Hulk, where they tried to make it look like a comic book strip.
Oh yeah.
And that's like,
yes, you're right.
Like you don't need to, I felt like we've gone beyond that in comic book films already. Like I think comic book films right now, they're kind of turning into like dipping into different genre type films. Like I think to acknowledge that it's coming from a comic book on screen kind of cheapens it. So like seeing that as like comic book panels, I felt like it cheapened the setup for me.
Well, it's funny, and I wonder. Think if you're a director and you're going to make a small 200,000 independent film, but it's going to be Venom. You're not going to have the CGI. So then it's just Tom Hardy in a room hearing these voices and a couple of evil images. Mm-hmm. That forces you to do a whole character treatment that's completely different. I wonder if you're sitting there with your $100 million budget, $150 million, and you've got 8 million tons of CGI to develop. Yeah. Maybe you just don't care about the rest of this.
I think that's exactly what happened here. I think, because I was talking about Ruben Fleischer as a director. He did do Zombieland, so there are some like really fun movies underneath this belt that you can consider. Right, Zombieland wasn't an independent movie, but it felt indie. And I think that he wanted to do something with the movie, but he, as you're probably saying, the studios were kind of like, well, if we're going to shell out this much money for you,
we're going to have some boom.
You got to give us something.
This movie went over budget, and
I'm
they
sure.
just did reshoots. Yeah, they did like reshoots really late in the game.
Oh.
Where they finished like in June or July of this year.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Wow. Okay.
And that would explain why, and again, I don't want to spoil anything, why it felt like it had multiple endings. It really did feel like it had multiple endings.
But the funny thing that I found, well, I don't know if this did an ADR in this, but in the trailer, and there was such an uproar on this on the internet when Jenny Slate pronounced symbiote instead of symbiote. But in the movie, she says symbiote, and so I don't know if because fans were angry and like yelling at the studio.
That shouldn't be something.
They changed it, though.
That shouldn't be something they should have. I didn't, but that's something they shouldn't have worried about. I think, listen, let the fanboys be angry, make a movie that at least makes sense, and the fanboys will be satisfied. Again, Deadpool wasn't exactly what the comic books laid out for him, but it was such an entertaining film with enough violence, enough explosions that everybody walked out of it going like, at least they got the spirit right. And then they fixed a lot of it in part 2. So I think the problem is that Sony is on its last limbs, that it's trying its best to create something that is comparable to the MCU, that they in fact ended up being more similar to the DC universe. And I think that's kind of the biggest problem is like they're trying their best to do this, they missed the mark, and they end up being the other guys.
I think you're right. I agree with that. And for a film that's
even for you.
Me?
For a film that's supposed to be set up as like a backstory for a villain, like Venom's not the villain here.
Yep.
And I feel like that's to me that's like the biggest problem of this film.
Well, again,
I have to say not knowing what the story was, I was quite certain that was the case until
they automatically try to make him into the anti-hero as opposed to the villain.
Which I think is a mistake.
Right. Again, if the character wasn't Eddie Brock and it was Flash Thompson, again, the guy who took on the symbiote and became Agent Venom in the comic books, then it would have been a way more complex, much more fun story that would have taken the perspective, even at that, telling the story of now, which is like Flash Thompson lost his legs in the Iraq War. Tell that story. That's more relevant to what's going on. And more importantly, the character of Flash Thompson is so much more complex in how he handles the symbiote that it would have been a much more fun story, but they settled with Eddie Brock because the fans.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem, is that they settled it with, because it was like, they made Eddie Brock in part 3 of Spider-Man. We need to stick to that because the fans know this character, when in fact they should have just gone straight with Flash Thompson. That's a much more cooler story. And if the MCU creates that sort of like parallel universe with this one, then you could have, because Venom's from space, meet the Guardians of the Galaxy. And so that would have been a much more cooler story. Again, I'm thinking like 3 movies ahead. They could have easily set something up like that where it would have just been much more fun had they done Flash Thompson Venom instead of Eddie Brock.
Wow.
Yeah.
And watch the next one. They're going to do that story now.
Oh, by all means.
Oh, yeah. Take it.
Well, because then it becomes much more cooler because Eddie Brock, again, in the comics is a sociopath, and you have Flash Thompson, who is like this military, like, I'm doing it because the people need a hero. A hero, yeah. And it would have been really cool.
And then you can have the new Venom hide out at this affable African-American guy's house.
Yes.
and they could team up.
Wink.
Yeah.
Just consider that.
Consider that.
I'm
Yeah.
just throwing it out. I don't know where it came. It just popped in my head. That's what I see.
Yes.
All right, let's go ahead and start switching gears. So we have all rated Venom. Takeouts.
Yes.
Any last thoughts before we move on to A Star Is Born?
You don't need to see this in theaters.
Yeah.
So yeah, just wait, watch something else. Don't see this
Yeah.
in theaters.
Unless you want to see it at the Vista, where it's half price.
Oh, okay.
Essentially from other theaters. So that would be,
That's
if you
right.
want to use this as a way to explore a new, cheap, and I highly recommend the Vista.
Yeah. Or I say just watch it at home, put it on the background. If you miss a couple of scenes, don't
Yeah.
worry. So did the movie. It completely forgot to put them in the movie. So you'll feel like confused just like I did in the movie theater.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the movie's not great, but it's not the worst movie either. It's a fun watch at home, and yeah.
They could put that on their poster.
Yeah, exactly. It's a
They
fun
probably will.
movie.
It's not great, but not the worst. There you go.
All right, so let's move on to the next movie review. So the next movie we're reviewing is A Star Is Born, directed by Bradley Cooper, written by Eric Roth and Bradley Cooper, starring Lady Gaga, Bradley Cooper,
And a
Sam
train.
Elliott,
Yeah.
and the train is very angry at us. Here's the
Yeah, it's just
Just go with
here's
it.
the plot.
told you.
A musician helps a younger singer and actress find fame, even as age and alcoholism sends his own career into the downward spiral. All right, guys. So we have all seen this film.
No, I haven't.
you didn't.
I did not.
I didn't.
Oh.
See it.
I was
Okay.
planning on seeing it. It was sold out, so I didn't get a chance to actually watch it. So yes,
The rest of us saw it.
all of you got to
So-
convince me to watch this.
You
Are we
yeah.
well-
Z will be the one to decide this movie's
All
worth the
right.
dine in,
Yeah,
watch in
that's
theaters,
right.
take it away to watch it at home, or leftovers.
Watch the original.
Well, there's
which
three.
one?
There's three.
Yeah.
Watch the better one of the originals.
Which
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
sure, we'll go with that. So Z, we you will be the host.
I
for
will be
this,
the host of this.
and so.
I like how you spring it up. while
Oh yeah, no, this was slightly intentional. Actually, everybody knew
Keeps
except
us
for
on our toes.
everybody knew except for Dan that I had not watched this movie. So this is kind of fun.
I didn't know.
I'm pretty sure I told you earlier, but you forgot.
But that's very possible.
that's a high
very,
possibility.
very possible. Yeah.
So actually, Chris, since we already decided that the Venom was a takeout, you have earned a point.
Yes.
We're doing something new where we can no longer earn points, but
Yes.
our guests can get points.
I like it.
So you get. So we'll see if you get a point for this one as well. So go ahead and rate this film.
Yes.
Chris, go ahead and start.
I got to give it a reasonably strong dine-in. This is
Oh,
is
okay.
unique. This is a unique film. You are you are seeing an actor's take, Bradley Cooper, an actor's take on art. I think you will come away with a clear idea of what he thinks art is. You also get to see an actress, Lady Gaga, who delivers a performance, and she has an experience
Oh, loud motorcycle.
in riding motorcycles. She has the experience in music that
they do have motorcycles in the movie.
20 or 30 people on planet Earth have, and she brings it to the film.
Yeah.
So this is closest thing. It's a theatrical documentary almost because of the weight and experience with celebrity and fame that the very creators of the film bring to the film.
Mike,
Yeah, that's interesting. For me, it was a takeout.
because you are a musician.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, well, and not. Yeah. I'll get into it.
Okay.
when
So
we
take
talk
out.
about it.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dan.
So this movie, I was really looking forward to it, and it's a dine-in for me, but it's a soft dine-in. It's
Interesting.
actually I
You're
liked
in the
it, but
middle.
I didn't love it,
Okay.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right.
and I wanted to love it.
All right. I'm curious to hear about Mike. Mike, so what's going on? Like, why was this movie?
What's wrong?
Yeah. Tell me
I'm
what's
interested
wrong.
in your take as
Yeah.
a musician.
I think the film is great. I loved the character development of both characters and the chemistry between the two. But a lot of the issues I had in particular were what happens in the third act. So talking about it would be spoiler.
That's why the train's honking at you.
Yeah.
That's actually the studio saying no.
Don't tell them.
But I feel like the way they handled, or basically, I just didn't like the story. That's pretty much what it was. The how the story ends.
Yep.
And that's what made it a takeout for me. Very basically, that's
Did they all die?
No.
No,
No, just
they don't. but I can't say
Did
what
one of them
happens.
get a
But
symbiote?
I mean, it's not,
Yeah, that would be
Well,
interesting. Well, were you gonna
no,
say
never
that?
mind.
But the key is this
Yeah.
is essentially Cinderella. I mean, it's not that it's that film, but it's an established story. It
Yes.
has to go to a certain place. So
Yes.
I understood it. This would be a massive tearjerker in my view if it were placed in 1982. Which is probably when the Barbra Streisand Star is Born is. When we
Interesting.
had that sense of how people are affected by their own mistakes. I think now in 2018, that got in the way a little bit. But I will say what I loved about this film is it, right or wrong, and my fiance who's into the music industry, she will tell me, I got the sense I was learning about what it's like to be a rock star.
Huh.
And that was very interesting.
Yeah.
That opening scene that is all Bradley Cooper, both as an actor and a director, I was like, wow, that's what it's like to be on top. And her entry into that world, that's what it's like to have dreams and then have someone launch those dreams. And I'd also like to give credit to the film, and this is a scandalous thing to say in our world, I suppose, but Lady Gaga is not an attractive girl, and that is an important part of this film because it allows you to believe these two are connecting. She's a perfectly fine-looking young woman, but these two are connecting for other reasons. If you got a devastatingly attractive Bradley Cooper's, good looks are established as a celebrity. If you got a devastatingly attractive opposite character, you'd say, oh, they like each other because they look so good.
Right.
But they were lucky enough that Lady Gaga doesn't look that way, and you're like, okay, why are they connecting? And they really nailed that. And that was why I was like, even though I agreed with you on how it ended, I was like, I'm on the ride with these two because that's a cool couple to follow.
Yeah, no, I agree. Bradley Cooper did a great job directing this film, and performance. It's very raw. It's very much like you're getting a glimpse into these lives of these characters. The problem I had with the film was mainly the emotional impact that was not there for specifically Lady Gaga. I didn't feel it. I wanted
okay.
more from it.
So it was like unwarranted. It did feel like even though the character was supposed to be like from the bottom, that she was still treated as Lady Gaga from the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was. Maybe it
okay.
was just in my mind. Like even in her circle, like there was like this this
Adoration of her?
Yes. So it still didn't feel like she was like moving up to the top.
Well,
She didn't start from the very, very bottom.
Yeah.
She clearly she clearly had capability.
Yeah.
And even by the character's own statement, she had made the music rounds and been tossed to the side.
Yeah.
But what I did like about this, I would say in the Me Too world, she wasn't just a sweet, attractive girl that some man then plucked out of the out of the ether and made into this star.
Yeah.
That connection that they had, she was bringing something to the table that was of serious weight, and it was played out through her music. I mean, that's very tough. You're releasing a movie, and you've got to come up with pop songs that connect instantly.
Yeah, when she sang it, she shined.
Oh,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And
It
you were
was
like,
just-
okay, that's a hit. Yeah, that sounds like a hit. And it was good.
The chemistry between them is undeniable. They have great chemistry, but there were moments where I don't know if it was just like he took one take or not as many takes. It seemed like a lot of the first takes that he took.
Did it feel improvised? To me, there were moments where I could feel improvisation.
Well,
And-
and it's curious because what I thought is I don't know this is true, and it could mean that she's a brilliant actor because it looked improvised.
Yeah.
But I thought he's working with someone who's not a professional actor. He is. I thought maybe he sat back and said, you know what? Take the lines. We're not going to worry about them. We're here, and we got to get there. Let's get there. And that's not a bad way to go.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And that's what made it seem a little bit like a documentary.
Yeah. You're
'cause
right
it
about
wasn't,
that.
perfectly scripted
Yeah.
tone. Now, who knows? Maybe it was, and she's just that good.
Yeah, that's very, very possible.
We will see that in her next film, and she will have a next film.
Yeah, which I would look forward to seeing. And for what she's done, this is the first film that she's done. And I've seen her in American Horror Story, and she was good in that as well. But I don't know. I didn't get emotional in this film. There was no tears. I did not feel much at the end, but I enjoyed the journey. But I guess it is the ending. Maybe it is the ending. That's it.
It was the journey and not the end.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Like-
I have to say the first 2/3 of the film were the best.
Because
one.
when they meet, and I'll be honest, when they meet, I was very giggly. I was like, "Oh my god, the chemistry is like
Oh,
like
that's cool.
watching someone
Yes,
like,
yes.
fall in love." And I was like, "Wow, this is great. This is really really well done." But then after the initial, when she starts to become famous, that's when the movie for me shifts, and it's probably because the first half focuses highly on Bradley Cooper, where the second act focuses highly on Lady Gaga. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's still definitely worth watching, but
No, it definitely
yeah,
is.
Yeah.
but it's that third act just kind of turned me off
Yeah.
to the film, and to where I was like, I could
Was that-
have easily enjoyed that.
Was that more of like because of the story? Like
It's
have
the
you guys-
story.
It's the story.
Yeah, it's
okay,
the
okay.
story.
'Cause I was gonna say, like, is that part of the story? Because this movie has been remade a couple of times.
Yeah.
And they're that's why I say Cinderella. The story has to go the certain way. They're sort of trapped by that, and like I said, I think 1982. You're like,
Maybe you're right, yeah.
the poor soul. 2018 with all the and I don't want to spoil it, but with all the knowledge that I think society has about the problems that Bradley Cooper's character was beset with, we've seen this before, and
Yes.
there's a way to solve this, and you're just not doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like that story needed some more updates, and that it didn't get.
But also, I'm actually really looking forward to Bradley Cooper's next film that he directs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Not a-
Without question.
I think this movie will get nominated, obviously, and I think they both will get nominated, and I think he will get nominated for director.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to win any other awards. Maybe Bradley Cooper, but it's definitely getting nominated for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
It may, if it captures the heart of America like it seems as if it seems like it's doing, it may just maybe, I don't want to call it the feel-good film of the century because it's not a feel-good
Yeah.
Not a feel-good movie at all.
but
Yeah.
between the wattage of those two, it may just be the film that, particularly for the Academy, it captures that popular and critical. And God knows they're looking for that right now,
Yeah.
since they had that sort of strange idea of, best popular film.
Yeah. Okay.
I agree.
Well, do you have any last words, Mike?
Nope.
No.
do
The
not.
ending is what did it for you.
Yeah,
That's
the
what
ending's
kind of like
the ending's what did it. I think they
Okay.
should have. I think that should have. It's hard to go deep into it without,
Of course.
without
Of course,
destroying it. I mean, without ruining it for our viewers.
I
But.
hear you. Dan, any last words?
I would still recommend to go watch it.
Yes.
And hopefully you enjoy it.
All right, Christopher, last words.
Nope. I just look forward to. I think Bradley Cooper. No, I have no last words, but here they are. Bradley Cooper may turn out to be one of those actor directors like Ben Affleck.
Yeah. I was just gonna say
if he sticks to material that really sings to him, if he's allowed to stick to that. Then, I mean, if he goes and directs Venom 2, but if he's allowed to stick to the stuff that rings for him, like you saw Ben Affleck deals with Boston,
Right.
we may have 4, 5, 6 more special films coming from him that really add to the tableau.
Yeah, and what I remember hearing was that Clint Eastwood was actually set to direct this, so he took over for Clint Eastwood. So I think that also just helped that he knew that he was getting property that he could develop, knowing that Clint Eastwood was going to do something really special with it. And I'm always.
I think after Jersey Boys, they're like, no, you cannot do this movie anymore.
But I think also the fact that like it's an actor who's directing kind of gives you a little more sensibility and much more care in the product, because directors, like especially like I want to say Clint Eastwood, it's like one of those like jaded directors, but he's very nuts and bolts. He knows how to get things done. But I think with Bradley Cooper taking over and knowing that it's his first project, you got Lady Gaga on there. Like I'm certainly interested in watching this. And so I think there was some care, and I think that's why I'm definitely going to stick to Dine In. I'm going to watch this movie. I really wanted to watch it. I didn't.
Chris, you get the point.
You get the point, Chris. I didn't get the chance to watch it, but I'm really looking forward to it. And thank you for not spoiling it. I appreciate that. And I look forward to watching it.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Chris, for being on the show.
Hey, always good to be here.
Any thing you want to promote? Or?
Well, my directorial debut.
Yes.
We are hip deep in the editing process right now.
Awesome.
But I'm very psyched. We have a good picture, and it's Mine to Ruin, because my young actor Paul Haken was brilliant. My crew on set. Michael Pessa was our DP, and he brought a set of lighting guys, and my other actress, Cheryl Bricker. They have given me a good piece of product, and it's now up to me to shape it into the film that it deserves.
Awesome.
Deserves to be.
Okay.
Well, we look forward to seeing that when we can.
Yes. You will be the first.
Yay. Thank you so much, Z, for being on the show and
Thank you.
hosting A Star Is Born.
Of course.
Thank you, Mike, for setting everything up here.
You're very welcome.
The wine.
Another sunny day. Don't we? Locale?
Yeah,
Sunny day in
SoCal, in Hillside.
Yeah.
Elephant Hill.
Elephant Hill.
Elephant Hill. Lovely day in Elephant Hill.
Yeah.
And I'm Dan the Man Munoz. Thank you, guys. Until next time. Goodbye.
See you later.